one place where, there was one place where somebody had not initialed, and therefore it was never ratified, never really ratified. We're just recording this thing. We're in miscellaneous paragraph 28, page 8 of 10. Yeah, so if you're, again, it's important. I know you can get busy and whatever, but you want to go page by page to make sure that something hasn't been put in there and initialed, or somebody didn't initial something where it needed to be initialed, so that you don't put yourself in a position of it really not being ratified and enforceable. Okay, contract shall be construed, interpreted, and applied according to the laws of the state in which the property is located, and shall be binding upon and shall inure to the benefit of the heirs, personal representatives, successors, and assigns of the parties. This is, in all honesty, I've never seen it happen. But what this is saying is that somebody who's entered into a contract, if they pass away, that they still have to perform on the contract. Now, if somebody, well, bottom line is I've never seen it happen. I've been in situations where purchasers that literally died. They wrote a contract, and one of the husband or wife. I'm not sure I've ever seen it where both people died, but people died of a motorcycle accident, sellers, older sellers, or a heart attack. In every situation I've been involved in, the other people had the wherewithal to know that this wasn't, obviously this wasn't their intent to do this and then die. And so I've never seen somebody not released if they wanted to be released. Now, there have been situations where people move forward. The wife said, no, we want to buy this house. And might delay it because now you got a situation of having to qualify differently or whatever the case may be. But the point being is, the contract is very clear that it will inure to the benefit of the heirs, personal representatives, successors, and assigns of the party. To the extent any handwritten or typewritten terms herein conflict with or are inconsistent with the printed term, the handwritten and typewritten terms shall control. So again, that's where when you're making changes, they're gonna take over. Something else might be in the contract. Well, just like we just did. Contract says deadlines until the midnight. We just crossed that out and we've put in 7 p.m. That 7 p.m. now is the number, not midnight.
As long as everyone.
As long as everybody initials and agrees to it. Another place would be back, when we were talking about settlement date. It says on or about August 18th, and it's going to be August 25th. Some people would still say that's on or about, but that's gray to me. So let's do an amendment that says buyer and seller agree to extend settlement to August 25th. And again, you get everybody initial that because you don't want somebody showing up on August 18th saying, oh, wait a minute, they said we were going to be here and we're ready to go. No. Remember, we talked about the fact that, such and such. So, yeah. Let's see. Whenever the context shall so require, the masculine shall include the feminine, and singular shall include the plural, unless otherwise provided herein. Provisions of this contract affecting title shall be deemed merged into the deed, delivered in settlement, and shall not survive settlement. Unless otherwise provided herein, the provisions of this contract affecting title shall be deemed merged into the deed, delivered in settlement, and shall not survive settlement. Okay, so what that's saying is, if a seller, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Oh, good. How are you guys? Nice to see you. Good morning. Say you've got somebody who's single and they're selling the house. The fact that they're single, that means they bought this. Most times they've bought this what's called a sole and separate estate. Right? They're the only ones that have, active, owning that property. They're now selling it to Sarah and Mike. Sarah and Mike are going to probably put the deed in what's called tenants in its entirety, which means Sarah passes away, goes to Mike, Mike passes away, goes to Sarah, right? What this is saying is the sole and separate estate of the single person goes away at settlement. It doesn't extend through it. It's merged into the new deed. The new deed saying Sarah and Mike are taking this over as tenants in its entirety, and the sole separate estate goes away at that point. Okay, does that make sense? Good, because I had to read that twice to figure out what that was saying. Okay, now we get into the fun stuff. In an effort to avoid the expense and delay of litigation, parties agree to submit any disputes or claims arising out of this contract, including those involving the listing company or selling company, to mediation prior to instituting litigation. What that says is somebody can't sue somebody first. It's basically what it says is that they've agreed. Now, most buyers and sellers will not have read this paragraph. And we've been in situations where people wanted to file a suit and whatever, and we point them to paragraph 29 and say, no, we need to go through mediation first before we go to litigation. The Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors has mediation services. There are agents that have been trained to be mediators. In most situations, they get involved when it's an issue that has to do with the agent as well as the client, but they will get engaged if it's a thing between the buyer and seller. Some of you probably remember, I used it as an example, I think this time around in the contract where we had the wood stove insert. Remember we had the big deal, and I got involved in it, and 3 months later they did exactly what I told them to do in the first place. But this one guy, he was just intent on suing the guy, and finally pointed out to him that he would have to go through mediation. And I went to the car and asked them about that, and found out that yes, they will mediate between a buyer and seller. You as the agent probably want to go along as the fact that you're representing them. But the bottom line is it relates to mediation, and we'll read this in just a minute, but the mediation basically says that Ned and I have an issue. We agree that we're going to go someplace and we're going to share our issues, and we're going to try to work it out. If we can't work it out, then either person has the right to then sue, or if it as it relates to realtors, has the right to file a grievance, professional standards grievance. And whatever has been talked about in that mediation can't be used in a court case or in a hearing, arbitration hearing, or professional standards. So I could throw up all over Ned and say, yeah, you're absolutely right, I screwed up, blah, 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 I'm tough, I'm not doing whatever. And Ned says, well, since you're not going to do anything, and because now I'm really offended because you've thrown up all over me, I want to take you to whatever. He cannot, none of that can be said. Well, Michael, you said that you did this wrong. He would have to reprove his case in that situation. Such mediation shall be non-binding, that is, no party will be obligated to enter into a settlement arising out of mediation unless that settlement is satisfactory to that party. I mean, basically what you're trying to do in mediation is get people to compromise enough to just not have to go any farther, because it takes time, it takes energy, it takes finances, those kinds of things. But a good mediator hopefully can ask the right questions and get people out of the room and talk to one side of the party and say, hey, here's this, talk to the other. They're not trying to lead it in a certain way. They're trying to get the people to agree. Their job is basically that, to have a discussion, to get people to a point where they can agree to disagree and resolve it by compromise. Any settlement the parties enter into will be binding, but if the parties are not able to reach agreement on a settlement, they may resort to arbitration or litigation as if the mediation never taken place. Mediation will be formed by a mutually agreeable mediator or mediation service in the area. This agreement to mediate does not apply to foreclosure, unlawful detainer, parentheses eviction, mechanics liens, probate, or licensed law actions. Judicial act now. Licensed law actions, what that means is that a buyer or seller who is unhappy with what you've done, they can in fact file a complaint with the Virginia Real Estate Board and say, I believe that these people have violated such and such, and I want you to pursue it and investigate it and that kind of thing. They do not have to try to mediate that. They can literally go to the Virginia Real Estate Board and say this particular aspect of license law was not handled properly. Same thing with You can file a grievance against another realtor through the professional standards, but I think they would try to get you to mediate first. But you can, in fact, file a complaint, and then they put together a group of people, and a group of people of your peers decide whether or not it's a viable complaint. And if they do, they don't act on it. They send it to an arbitration panel. So you have a group of people look at it and say, yes, there's enough here that we think it should be heard, or no, there's not enough here, and we're not going to recommend it going forward. Judicial actions to provide provisional remedies such as injunctions and filings to enable public notice of pending disputes are not violations of the obligation to mediate and do not waive the right to mediate. So what that's saying is you've got your buyer's written a contract, and for whatever reason the seller is not performing. You might be a multiple contract situation where we felt like we did everything right. We feel like we have a ratified contract, and then they went to somebody else because there's more money or whatever the case may be. You can, in fact, file what's called a lis pendens on the property, which means it can't close. You can go to the courthouse and you can file. I've got a complaint about this property as it relates to transfer and ownership. And when they go to do a title search, that lis pendens would have to be resolved before they could provide clear title. You follow where I'm coming from? So what this is saying here is I can do that to protect my interests, because it may take me a while to get to court or go through mediation or whatever, and I don't want them doing something before so that now it's an after the fact dispute. I want what I want is that house, right? And I believe that I've done everything I can to be the legal purchaser of that house. So I'm going to file lis pendens. Saying, I've got an issue here, and that issue has to be resolved before they transfer title to somebody else. And that you're not violating the mediation. It's not like you're moving beyond what that's saying. Okay, brokers license status, listing and selling company may from time to time engage in general insurance, title insurance, mortgage loan, real estate settlement, home warranty, and other real estate related businesses and services from which they may receive compensation during the course of this transaction, in addition to real estate brokers fees. And that basically this is talking about our joint venture with Edward Title, Movement Mortgage. We don't have anything in regards to insurance, but some of the home warranty companies will send us I don't know if it's a rebate, I don't know what you call it. Just so you know, that's money they send. We don't have a signed agreement with them on that, and all that money goes to AHIP. So the money comes in, and we just send that money to AHIP as our sort of noted nonprofit, if you will. And so if anybody ever asks you, say yes, from time to time, home warranty companies will send us a rebate of some sort. But just so you know, that's used totally for charitable reasons in our company anyway. But that's why it's important that when you're using, when you're a buyer and your buyer is choosing one of our attorneys or one of the attorneys that will use that in the title, you want to get that title order filled out and signed, so that's sort of a written verification of the fact that they know that that's happening. So I don't know, probably wouldn't be a bad idea for you to have some sort of disclosure if you use a mic that you're related to the lender. I mean, you're not, I don't think you're getting paid by him, but maybe you should. Yeah, that's right. But if you're using mic, I would have some sort of disclosure, just so people know. And I would have it in writing in some way so nobody can ever say, I had no idea he was your husband. And there's no reason why Mike's not going to do a great job, because he does, but that's probably not a bad idea for you. The parties acknowledge that the listing company and selling company are retained for their real estate brokerage expertise, and neither has been retained as an attorney, tax advisor, appraiser, title advisor, home inspector, engineer, surveyor, or other professional service provider. That's why when you come into my office and say, hey, I've got a legal question, I always say, well, you're in the wrong place. I mean, it's my kind of disclaimer to you. You're in the wrong place. However, ask me and I'll tell you what I think. But if we're really going to get a legal opinion, it's not going to come from me. We're going to get Bill Tucker or Larry McElwain or somebody else to weigh in on that. Yeah, okay. Look at us. We'll finish this up today, at least contract. All right, we talked about disclosure of real estate board commission licensee status. That's, hey, you're licensed in the state of Virginia to sell real estate. That's where you're going to disclose. If you're buying, it's only if you're buying or selling. You don't have to put, obviously you're a licensee because you're writing the contract. But if you're if you are, partially owning or the property, where this is where you would disclose it. Other terms, again, just the place where all these different things we've talked about over the last several weeks. If it needs additional language, you can put it in here. If it's more of an epistle than just a couple lines, then what you do in the other terms is say, see attachment number 1, and your attachment number 1 would or see. You wouldn't have that in that. I was going to say see home inspection removal, but that's part of the paragraph. Yeah, so you're going to just, this would be a place where you would put in property must appraise at the contract price, and that would be, a place you'd put it. You might, this might be a place where this property is contingent until August 18th on the purchaser's wife seeing and approving the property. I mean, just those types of things are what you can put in other terms. And if it is longer, then instead you just say see attachment number 1, see attachment number 2, and you would have those lined up behind it. This contract, when signed by a purchaser, shall constitute an offer to enter into a bilateral contract, and the offer shall remain in effect unless earlier withdrawn until blank on blank date. If not accepted by the time, this offer shall be null and void. Okay, so basically what that's saying is, today's the 15th. You say I'm going to give you till noon on August 17th to give us a count or to accept it. Again, this is a training. That's what this says. From a training standpoint, just a psychological standpoint, I would rather you not put anything in there. And unless it's a specific thing, like you've got an out-of-town client coming in and they have to buy a house this weekend. And you write it off on Thursday, and you need to know by Saturday, because these folks are leaving town on Sunday. Then you would put that in, but you would explain that. Hey, Dad, I just want you to know that these folks are here. They've really got to, do this. And so if we don't hear from you, we're going to have to move to contract number 2 or whatever. The reason I like to leave it blank is because in some places it makes the seller feel like there's a gun being held to their head. We've made you an offer, and therefore we want to have an answer by 6 p.m. tonight. If we don't, we're out of here, kind of thing. You still can do that. That's the reason I like to leave it blank. If you feel like you're being played a little bit, like they're going to wait till over the weekend, open house, that kind of thing, and you're not hearing back, you can always go back and give notice to that listing agent. If we don't hear from you by noon on Saturday, my buyer reserves the right to withdraw their offer, right? The crazy thing is the buyer has the right to withdraw their offer anytime, because if it's not ratified, there's nothing to enforce, right? So I like to, give it to them. We'd like to. When do you think we'll hear from you? Oh, today's Tuesday. You'll probably hear from us by tomorrow. It's at noon, and then you don't hear tomorrow at noon, and then you don't hear on Thursday. Then get permission from your buyer and say, hey, if we don't hear from you by Friday at noon, my buyer, we're giving you notice that my buyer reserves the right to withdraw. And the point being is, reserves the right is really important. The buyer wants the house. So we're not in this situation, if not accepted by some time, this offer shall be null and void. Even if you're putting a date in here, I would change that to say, if not accepted by this time, the buyer has the right to make this contract null and void, because this means it's done. If noon on August 17th comes and nobody's done anything, you have a null and void contract, and that may not be the intent that your buyer wants. That may not be the intent the seller wants, okay? And so if not accepted by such time, the purchaser reserves the right to make this contract null and void. Does that make sense? Certainly there are places where it makes sense to put that in there. A couple examples I just gave you, but in most situations, I kind of like to, psychologically say, Justine, hey, I'm working with you. We're doing this together. This is win-win. When do you think we'll hear back from your seller? Blah, blah. We didn't fill this in because we want, and you're trying to do the warm, fuzzy aspect of negotiating, right? I don't want to be adversarial. And I just think in some ways this can feel adversarial to some people, especially if you make a low offer, or terms that the seller's not going to be too excited about. Anything I can do to kind of smooth it out. Electronic signatures. If this paragraph is initialed by both parties, then basically it says you can use any sort of electronic signature and they will count. The nice thing about electronic signatures, going back to what we've talked about before, anybody that signs this, anybody that initials this, needs to get a copy of whatever they sign initially, even if it's 5, 6 counters. Every time they should get a copy of what they've signed. Electronic signatures, that's nice because they get an email each time saying that they've done that. We've already talked about we want to get everybody signing this. Goes all the way back to the beginning of the contract, where do we have all the legal sellers? We may have a couple people, but then we find out there are a couple other people that have rights to that property. We want to find that out as quickly as we can as a listing agent to make sure we've got the people who have the authorization to sign this. Last thing you want is to have 3 signatures and find out later there's a 4th. Guess what? You don't have a legal and binding contract because somebody had an interest in that property. Somebody's on the deed that wasn't there. It could be an ex-wife. It could be a brother. Good example. Sharon and Duke are selling some land across from their place. There are four brothers, I think. Yeah, 4 brothers. And great example. You can get 3 of them agreeing, whatever, but if that 4th signature is not there, you got nothing. Well, I got 3 out of 4. That's the majority, and maybe as a family, that's how you work. But the family, and they figured that out. You got to figure out somehow to get that 4th person's signature on the contract. So
let's say it does come up in a situation, not real world, but where you're really rolling towards closing, and I guess it would be discovered in the title, or maybe just when the lawyers look up the deed. What do you? I mean, let's say everybody wants to go forward with the transaction. Does the lawyer first amend the contract to have the right signatures on there, and then
what you would do is you would have an amendment, exactly.
Yeah.
And you would say, purchaser and seller agree that the owners noted on above contract or such and such, Ned Carter, is to be added as a seller, right, with the noted sellers, in the contract. So you would have something that the purchasers understand that we're adding on. Right. It actually happens more on the other side, where you take somebody off or add somebody on the buyer side, like with Beck and Ben. Because Beck had only been working at UD Hospital for a short period of time. Jay didn't want to have her, qualify because it was just going to make it harder. And Ben could qualify himself, thank God. Because I probably co-signed. But anyway, the point being is, originally they wrote the contract, Beck and Ben. Right. And so we ended up amending. Seller agrees to remove Rebecca Nyquist as a purchaser. Now, in that situation, I'm not, as a seller, removing her until somebody tells me why we're removing her. Right. And that Ben can qualify for that, because I could do that, the seller could do that, and then all of a sudden, Ben can't qualify. Well, now he gets out of financing continuously. But in either way, what you're saying is buyer and seller hereby agree, right, that Rebecca Nyquist is to be removed as a purchaser of the contract. Buyer and seller hereby agree that Ned Carter is to be added as one of the sellers noted in there. And then receive a deposit per paragraph 4. If you remember, paragraph 4 talks about the earnest money deposit having to be, you've got a date in there as paid as deposit to the escrow agent. And what you're going to have here is you're the buyer agent. Normally you're holding the escrow. And so when you get that check, oftentimes it's that day, hey, write me a check for $5,000 or whatever, and you're going to make a copy of it and include it with the contract that you send to the other agent. From my standpoint, you then staple it into your folder for that buyer, whatever. And then once it's ratified, then you would give that check to Mary so we could process it. Hopefully you give it with all the paperwork with the contract, with all those kind of things. But sometimes, you know, well, thankfully, they get married a check and tell her on what property so she can do the escrow. But we may not see the contract for a few days, because as good as our agents are, a lot of them aren't very good with paperwork. And there are a couple of people you wouldn't even believe. You know, a couple of people that are the worst. I'm sorry? Yeah, yeah. But a couple of them, you know, are the worst. And yet you would never know it because they are just so persnickety about the contract, about the wording and that kind of thing. But then when it comes to processing the paperwork, something goes awry. I don't know. We're not going to mention any names, so not yet anyway, Justine. All right, last page, which again doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a big deal because so many people don't fill it out. I'm amazed. It's on the back of that one.
Oh, okay.
Should be anyway. The copy I gave you, I made front and back.
Yeah.
Is it right below there? Underneath? All the way underneath. With the little corner. I don't know. No, that's not.
We were, the one that I got, sorry, the one that we got the,
I gave you a copy and it was up front and back. Anyway, just use it for dummies. Okay.
I want to get credit for it.
That's right. That's exactly right. There you go. Okay. This is important for a couple of reasons. One is important for you so that you have all the information about the other agent. But two, when you send the contract to Charlottesville Settlement or wherever you're sending it, they have all the information. They can go to the contract and they know the address and all those kind of things. So when like the commission disbursement form is filled out or that kind of thing, you're not chasing, you know, that information. The most important thing on here though is below it. And I would just, it says for information purposes only, okay, in regards to the selling company, listing company. But if when you get a contract and the other person hasn't filled this out, I would just very nicely say, hey, can you please, you know, provide this information to me? Because when I process this, I want to have it. It just, people are lazy. They just don't do it. And I don't know, you guys can tell me this in transactions. Can't you autofill this for yourself?
It should automatically, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
If
so.
you filled out the information in there, I think
Yeah.
Anyway, but the next one is the important part. This contract has been ratified by purchaser and seller as of. This is where, and I'm amazed how often this is blank. This date, August 15th, 2017, is so important because if you remember throughout all the things we've been talking about, these contingencies and things will say as of the date of ratification. Well, when is the date of ratification? Well, I think it was Sunday. Oh, I think it was Tuesday. No, it's right here. What, you know, so whoever fixes that last initial and sends it so that it's delivered and enforceable, they should be writing in August 15th, 10:30 a.m. And that way, as the other agent goes through it, if they don't believe that, then you need to get that resolved. And I am amazed how many times I go through the contract and this is left mine. Amazed. And then acknowledge the contract is ratified as of the date above. Here it is. You're signing it. So you're putting this in. You're sending this. You're signing it. If you're the selling agent, you're signing that. The listing firm's getting it. You should be looking for a signature back on this that says that's been acknowledged. Awesome. Questions?
That last bit you were looking for, was that number 32,
What last bit?
which you were just talking about, the as of?
No, that's the acceptance. Remember, that's the. It's on,
Okay,
it's
where's,
right.
Right.
Oh, that's what the problem. I didn't give you this page today.
okay,
That's the thing. Okay, right down here at the bottom. Folks, if you're watching, I didn't give you the third page, so I wasn't sure we get that.
that's new now too.
No, it's not new. It's just the page that you don't have. It's just the last page of the contract.
I
10
got
of
the
10.
last page here, right?
10 of 10. Yeah, so right there. Let me see.
No,
I know.
no, we need this page.
Yeah, no, this is 9 of 10. This is 10 of 10.
Okay,
And so, but basically, so this is where you're getting all the agent's information, both listing and selling.
That's not it.
Sorry.
Is it,
This one.
so to that point, is that something you have to print out separately?
No, it's 10 of 10. Look at
No,
this.
I know, but I was just saying, why is it not in my,
Yeah, I don't know. But the point being is,
Part of the contract.
yeah, it's.
Well, I see it's 10 and 10, but my point is, it ain't in what I was handed out.
Let's see if, yeah, that's weird. Because in a little, it is a 10th page.
Okay.
But anyway, so you're gonna get that, that's where it is. It's right underneath the listing and selling company's information. And that's probably why it's missed. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea for it to be on 9 of 10. You know, as just like having it at the same place when you've got the receipt of deposit, just you know, have those together. Because this even is confusing because at the top of it, it says for information purposes only, right? So anyway, all right. So what we'll do next week is we'll start into the contingencies, home inspection, you know, all those kind of things. We'll walk through those things, and we'll also talk about not only how they're written, but how you remove them and that kind of thing. Other questions on any of that? No. Again, I always forget to look and see when we actually started, but it's been a couple months, right?
So we can start right back up again next Monday.
That's exactly right. As soon as we get through the contingencies, we'll. Now, one thing, and I'm going to remind the newer agents of this as well. You know, don't forget if there's a particular thing that you want to remember. We've got that on that YouTube channel. You can go back and watch every single class now, and I think they're titled. So you like if it's on home inspection contingency or condominium and property owners, you know, or maybe it's the pages, I don't know, but you can search through and find that because obviously not everybody is coming into this class on Tuesday morning, but the hope, I don't think we quite got from the very beginning. I'm not sure we were already on live streaming by the time we started this. So there may be a few at the beginning that we don't, but when we do it again, we'll have literally a complete library of the contract. So somebody that can't get in here on Tuesday morning can do it on their own. And then the other place, again, is in the Leading RE, the Institute stuff. There's a whole syllabus now for newer agents to, you know, sort of understand the process and everything. So, all right, thank you.
Have you done all, when did you get your license? Like a year ago?
A year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago. I noticed I had my goals to have my, the 32 hours done by the end of June.
Right.
Now it's the middle of August and I still, now I have like a month.
Yeah, if you go to Mosley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done it before, unfortunately, like 3 times before, but I've got to do it again. But it's just funny how that time kind of flies. I mean, I wish I had some great excuse for it besides absolute sloth. You know, watching the golf on Sunday versus doing that. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.